Imagine, your father is the seventh richest man on the planet. His personal fortune exceeds $30 billion. He can buy entire governments, judges, police generals, and armies with a single word. On every birthday, you are gifted not toys, but real sports cars, solid gold watches, and entire estates. But you, the heir to a narco-empire who has everything in the world, cannot walk out your front door to buy a simple vanilla ice cream from the corner store. You sit behind 2 inches of bulletproof glass, enviously watching poor, ragged, but free children playing in the streets. You know perfectly well that if you open your car door and take one step outside, dozens of sniper bullets will tear through your flesh, ripping you apart alive. You are a little monster sitting on top of billions, terrified to take a free breath. You didn't choose this life, but from the day you opened your eyes in Medellin, Colombia in 1977, you had a name written in blood across your forehead: Juan Pablo Escobar. The DNA of the most ruthless and wealthiest criminal on earth flows in your veins, and that is your eternal curse. Your childhood was spent in an earthly paradise. No, it wasn't just a big house. Your father built a 20-square-kilometer absolute empire for you and your family, called Hacienda Nápoles. Above your main gate sat not a simple sign, but the actual Piper airplane that smuggled his first shipment of cocaine into the United States. Elephants, giraffes, ostriches, and hippos, flown in on private jets specifically from Africa, roamed freely in your front yard. It was the largest private zoo in South America. You had hundreds of artificial lakes, a private airport, 25 helipads, and a go-kart track. The estate required a staff of over 700 people just to maintain. You played under massive dinosaur statues, bathed in absolute immunity and fairy tale wealth. To you, your father is the kindest, most caring man in the world. He reads you bedtime stories, strokes your hair, and looks at you with a warm smile. Looking into his gentle eyes, you would never believe that these warm, soft hands actually ordered the deaths of tens of thousands of people, drowned cities in blood, and commanded the mid-air bombing of passenger planes. At home, he is your loving dad. Outside, he is El Patron, the man who made the world tremble. But as you grow older, approaching your 10th birthday, the naive childhood illusion in your mind begins to crack. The anomalies become impossible to ignore. Why are hundreds of giant men walking your hallways with assault rifles and grenades strapped to their waists? Why are your only friends your father's personal assassins, executioners like Popeye, who strangled hundreds of men with his own bare hands? Why does the sky turn black with helicopters every time your father returns home? Slowly, with a tightening chest, you begin to feel how cold and bloody the bars of your golden cage truly are. You are not just a rich kid. You are the crown prince of the largest, most terrifying narco-empire in the world. And the blood of this empire was an intoxicating, unimaginable mountain of cash. Gradually, money lost its value. Your father's business grew at such a monstrous speed that physical cash became the biggest logistical nightmare. By the late 80s, the Medellin cartel was clearing $420 million in pure profit a week. People didn't count the money. There weren't enough human lifespans or counting machines for that. Your father's accountants exclusively weighed the cash on industrial scales. They knew by heart exactly how much a kilogram of $100 bills was worth. The cartel spent $2,500 a month just on the simple rubber bands needed to wrap the stacks of paper. But that wasn't the most horrifying part. Your entire life smelled of paper money. There was so much cash stuffed inside the walls of your homes, in hidden basements, in agricultural warehouses, in old village huts, that every single year, moisture and basement rats rotted and devoured nearly $2 billion. Are you listening? $2 billion. Ordinary people spend their entire lives sweating blood, suffering humiliation for a fraction of a cent of that money. People beg for years to afford a life-saving surgery. For your father, $2 billion chewed up by rats and mold was just a minor operational loss. He didn't spend a single second mourning it. He just laughed it off. One day, you walk down into a basement and see overflowing boxes of paper. You feel a rotten, moldy, rat-chewed $100 bill between your fingers. In that exact second, you realize a lifelong truth. Money does not bring happiness. Money is a horrifying poison that stole your freedom, turned your father into a murderer, and destroyed your childhood. These papers are your death warrant. By the end of the 80s, the gates of paradise slammed shut. Hell broke loose. Your father declared an open, bloody war against the Colombian state, its government, and America. Journalists were slaughtered, ministers were gunned down, palaces of justice were burned to the ground. An Avianca passenger plane carrying over 100 innocent people was blown out of the sky. Your father's face was broadcasted on every television channel worldwide as the planet's #1 terrorist. And you, a teenager not even 14 years old, were trapped dead center in this nightmare, this mass slaughter. Government forces were powerless to catch him. So in 1993, your father's fiercest enemies, the Cali Cartel, corrupt military factions, and all the killers he had wronged, united to form Los Pepes, people persecuted by Pablo Escobar. Their goal wasn't just to kill your father or throw him in a cell. Their objective was far more sinister. They swore to rip out his roots, to slaughter his bloodline, your entire family, your mother, your little sister, and especially you, the heir. Millions of dollars were placed as a bounty on your head. The luxurious villas, private jets, and roaming hippos became ghosts of the past. You became the wealthiest fugitives on Earth, hiding from everyone. You changed locations every 48 hours. For security, you weren't even allowed to know where you were going. Your own guards shoved you into the trunk of a car and tied a thick black blindfold over your eyes. You lay in the damp, suffocating darkness of a trunk for hours. Every time the car slowed down or hit the brakes, your heart hammered against your ribs, waiting for the trunk to pop open and dozens of assault rifles to spray your face with lead. Every night was spent under the terror of death. You were locked in damp, rotting, windowless safe houses that didn't even have beds. A family worth $30 billion was sleeping on the dirt floor of a peasant's shack. Every footstep outside, every barking dog, every car horn was enough to stop your heart. You possessed all the money in the world, yet you didn't have the right to step outside to buy a warm loaf of bread. But the event that completely shattered your psyche, the night written in blood in your memory as the most horrific, mind-bending paradox of your life, was still to come. You, your father, your mother, and your little sister Manuela were trapped in an abandoned, decaying, unheated wooden shack high up in the freezing mountains. Government helicopters were hunting you from the sky. Thick fog and a biting, freezing wind surrounded you. By 2 in the morning, the temperature plummeted below zero. Your little sister Manuela began to violently shiver. Her lips turned a deep, bruised blue. Her teeth chattered uncontrollably, and her tiny body was on the verge of total hypothermia. Day 3 with no medicine, let alone simple food. Nowhere to run. Surrounded by dark woods and an army of killers. And in that moment, the darkest, most terrifying paradox in human history unfolds. Inside that freezing, ruined shack, there were heavy, black plastic garbage bags you had managed to drag along. Inside those bags sat exactly $2 million in cold, hard cash, all crisp $100 bills. But in the middle of a freezing mountain, paper was utterly useless. $2 million couldn't buy a stale piece of bread, a warm blanket, or a cup of hot tea. Wealth had lost its absolute meaning. That is when your father, the most powerful narco-lord on earth, El Patron, who burns cities with a single word, strips away his title to become just a father trying to save his little girl from freezing to death. He opens the bags, he dumps $2 million onto the cold stone floor, and strikes a match. Shivering in the corner, you watch as the paper money that spilled the blood of thousands, the money that dragged the entire world into an unimaginable war, shrivels and burns. You stare into the melting faces of Benjamin Franklin engulfed in blue and yellow flames. The horrifying, toxic stench of burning ink and paper fills the room. Your sister warms her freezing hands over a fire fueled by burning millions. You will never forget that cold horror. You realize that on the edge of death, your $30 billion is as worthless as cheap firewood. Your money cannot save your life. Everything changed after that night. To save your lives, your father orchestrated a fake surrender. He arranged for you to be placed under government protection in a hotel in Bogota. He went back on the run. He was far away from you. December 2nd, 1993, exactly one day after his 44th birthday. You are sitting in a hotel room, clutching an old radio. You just spoke to him over the airwaves for the last time. He told you it would all be over soon, that he was moving to a safe house, that you were the most important person in the world to him. He stayed on the line too long. It was his greatest mistake. Intelligence forces traced his radio signal, and then the line went dead. Absolute silence. Hours later, your entire world violently implodes. Every television channel on Earth broadcasts the same grim footage. On the red-tiled roof of a house in Medellin, they show the bloody, bullet-riddled body of your father. His face is swollen and battered. His feet are bare. His shirt soaked in blood. Dozens of police officers and soldiers stand over him, smiling and posing for photos, like triumphant hunters who just bagged a wild beast. Colombia poured into the streets to celebrate. Cars honked endlessly. Thousands of people hugged each other, basking in the euphoria of victory. The entire country was celebrating the death of your father, your closest human being, as the greatest holiday of their lives. And you froze in front of a hotel television. You were only 16 years old. But in that exact second, you forgot what childhood was. You were completely alone, trapped in a vice of hundreds of enemies, unarmed and defenseless. You knew perfectly well that now that they had killed your father, they were coming for you. His hatred, his eternal, unwashable legacy of blood, his cruelty, and the tears of millions were now draped around your neck. The crosshairs were locked on you. You renounced your father's bloody legacy, the terrifying name of Juan Pablo Escobar. Begging the Colombian government, you changed your legal name to Sebastián Marroquín. Under the cover of darkness, you boarded a plane and fled far away to Buenos Aires, Argentina. You tried to dissolve into a crowd of ordinary people, burying your past deep in the earth. But every time you look in the mirror, deep down, you know one undeniable truth. You cannot erase blood and DNA by changing a name on a passport. Your face, your eyes, will forever remind you of your father. Years later, as a grown man, you finally realize what a terrifying illusion that $30 billion in absolute power truly was. Mountains of cash capable of buying any government, court, and law on the planet was actually the enemy that robbed you and your family of human happiness, peaceful sleep, real friends, and the simple joy of walking down the street to eat ice cream. Billions do not make a man free. They simply forge your cage out of shiny gold instead of rusted iron. And inside that cage, you remain a condemned prisoner waiting for death. Standing at the pinnacle of absolute power, mass murder, and a rotting empire of rat-eaten cash, all that remains is the horrifying, lifelong isolation of a man condemned to run and hide from his own shadow until his final breath.